Hey, everybody, thanks for being with us tonight on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. You know the drill if you've been part of this before. We're doing television, too, so it's going to be the TV show. We're going to stay on between breaks. I'll be monitoring your comments, so we look to hear from you. Dan and Jenna are up in Orchard Park. They are going to be obviously a big part of the show. They're going to be talking about what Brandon Beane said, what Matt Miller of ESPN said. We're going to run through as many of the draft candidates as we can, but we want to know what you think, too. So let us know. The draft starts at 8 o'clock. You know, the Bills aren't going to be picking for a while unless Brandon Beane makes a big move. So we wanted to make sure we were on with you. Also, if you're just checking with us, you know we're going to have reaction to the draft for each day of the draft. So probably be for tomorrow morning because this one's going to be super late. And then the same thing for tomorrow. Right now, they only have a second pick. We'll see if they get into the third round again. And then certainly on the last day when they finish out the draft, and then we'll wrap the whole thing up for you. So you guys know, just make sure you're ready on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. So we're going to take a quick break. You'll see it dip to black here for just a second. And then the TV show is set to begin.
Stefon Diggs has been traded to the Houston Texans.
Are we better today? Probably not. Yeah, it's a work in progress.
If you want a wideout, this is the year to do it. You better do it in the first 64 picks.
I think the pressure's on Beane. I think he knows that, too.
You don't just hire leaders or bring in leaders. You're developing leaders the whole time.
I was concerned about this wide receiver room the last 5 years. And now I've never been more concerned about who Josh Allen is going to throw to.
Buffalo Plus, NFL Draft Day Roster Rebuild, presented by Connors and Ferris.
Good evening and welcome to Buffalo Plus Live, our Bills Draft Building the Roster special show. I'm Mike Catalana, along with Jenna Cottrell and Dan Fetes, who are in Orchard Park tonight. We all know the major news this offseason with the huge impact for the team was this guy now in Houston. Yes, the trade of Stefon Diggs. He's now a member of the Texans. Diggs was Josh Allen's #1 target by far. Someone who will get a lot of those passes is likely to be a player that is drafted this year. Yeah, we know they didn't just move on from Stefon Diggs. Look at the guys who are gone from last year's team. Let's start with the safeties. Jordan Poyer has been an All-Pro 7 years with the team. He signs with the Miami Dolphins. And you can't mention Poyer without Hyde. The difference is Hyde may very well be retiring. He's still technically a free agent, but right now he's not on the roster. No word if that would happen. Tre'Davious White is gone. Now, look, they got used to playing without him the last couple of years, but no more Trey White, waiting for him to come back from an injury. As we said, now he's playing for the Rams. On the offensive side, Mitch Morse, this was the surprise. The center has been a key player for Josh Allen and the offense and a captain, but he's now with Jacksonville. Gabe Davis, a good football player, but I think they had already made the call on him. But here he is, Stefon Diggs, gone from Buffalo. Yes, he may be on the wrong side of 30 and where he's playing and the way he's playing, but Brandon Beane knew from the moment he made that trade, he has work to do to make up for the loss of Diggs.
Yeah, I mean, are we better today? Probably not. Yeah, it's a work in progress, and we're going to continue to work on that. I would just hope that people know I'm as competitive as hell.
Now that sets up where we are right now, right, guys? The Bills made a lot of offseason moves. They have holes to fill, but we talk about the competitive nature of Brandon Beane. Dan and Jenna, how do you think that competitive nature is going to come out tonight?
Yeah, I expect to see that a lot. And we know history tells us that that has been the case. Brandon Beane has traded up 4 times in 5 drafts with Buffalo, Dan.
Yeah, he even says he gets antsy on draft night. So I imagine he is anxious right now. He is not somebody that likes to sit on his hands here on draft day.
Yeah, so Brandon Beane is all of us as we await everything going on later on tonight. But Josh Allen is also someone that we know gets excited for the draft. He told us earlier on this last week saying, I love the draft. And you know he's been watching tape.
Yeah, I mean, I look at all the highlight tapes on YouTube, so everyone's a baller, you know, on those highlights. But honestly, it just kind of depends on the direction of what this offense wants to be, with Joe and myself, and understanding how we would utilize certain guys if we did pick them, and how we're going to utilize the guys that are here.
And that's the thing. There is so much wide receiver talent in this draft, Mike, and that's what makes this all so intriguing for the Bills.
Yeah, now listen, the way this thing's going to get started is the way a lot of the drafts start, with the quarterbacks. It is expected, certainly number one, it's going to be Caleb Williams. He's going to go to the Chicago Bears, and pretty quickly a couple of other quarterbacks should be gone. And then the wide receivers start going off the board, and it could be pretty quick.
Yeah, and there's really that top tier of guys that you think of in this one. Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State. His dad is a Hall of Famer. You talk about being an elite guy, the expectations put on him. He's the guy that most people think is kind of pro-ready. Then there's another guy, Malik Neighbors out of LSU. Speedster. He has all the traits you could ever want in your wide receiver. And then there's another guy, Dan, who I think you're a fan of.
Yeah, everybody has a dream, right? My dream right now is Washington wide receiver Rome Odunze. He's a dog, but he doesn't have any diva. His comparison is like a Terrell Owens type guy, and I think he's exactly what Buffalo needs. And earlier this month, I caught up with ESPN draft analyst Matt Miller about the fit that Odunze could be in Buffalo.
I mean, the fit is fantastic. I mean, he would be, like Jamar Chase is for the Bengals. That was my player comp for him. Like, that's the type of player you're getting. He's a dog on and off the field. He's a great person. He's a leader. He's a finished product. He has yards after the catch, but he's a bully at 215 pounds. I mean, he is a prototypical X wide receiver.
Yeah, he's exactly what this Bills offense needs. He's going to have to move up. That's the only negative side of him, is that he's going to go in the top 10.
Well, guys, here's what I wanted to say about that. In the past, we've seen Bean move up, right? And he's usually waiting. His Bills are in the 20s, so he's at 18, 19. He's making calls. It's a little different if you want to go up to get Odunze, right? Because this guy is likely to go in the top 10. If we talk about big swings, Dan, this has happened once before, and that one worked out pretty well for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, Bean traded a future number 1 first-round pick in 2020. It was some guy named Stephon Diggs because the Bills needed a number 1 wide receiver, and they got it, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they decide to do that. But once we get past those big 3 that you just talked about, there's other players. And the guy I like for them and have liked during this process is a guy who could very well be on their board and ready to go, but they may need to make a move in order to get Brian Thomas Jr. This guy out of LSU has been a really good player this past year. He's a guy who worked with Joe Brady before on the 2019 team, had 17 touchdowns, along with Malik Neighbors, who's going to be, as you said, one of those top players. I think Thomas, in the right spot, would be the 4th receiver to come off the board. We'll just have to wait to see how long it takes to get to Thomas being picked and if the Bills need to move up for him. Jenna and Dan?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So that would take a move up. But I think if the Bills wanted to stay at 28, a name that we have heard a lot is Texas's A.D. Mitchell. And he is someone, here's what you need to know. He is tall and he is fast. And he's someone that has that jump ball ability. He can bring in contested catches. And a lot of people have mocked him to the Bills. He seems like a hard worker. He's known as a freak athlete. And he also seems like culturally he would fit in very well here in Buffalo.
My baby girl is Iceland, Amani Mitchell. She turns 3 this summer.
I always keep her with me. I got her in this little chain right here.
The day she was born is the day that my life changed forever. I call her my twin. Just how energetic she is, just how playful she is. That's all me right there.
Team over there! Yeah, that's Daddy!
One thing that I hope that she takes away from my journey is no matter how hard I worked, no matter what I did on the field, I always took out the extra time to spend time with her, see her smile, to see her happy.
I got Ma, I got Ma.
And that I just loved her more than anything.
Love it. A family man, a girl dad, and culturally, I feel like he would be one of these guys in the locker room that people would love.
Yeah, another guy they're also talking about possibly being a first-round wide receiver is his teammate, Xavier Worthy. He had the record-setting fastest 40-yard dash at the Combine. He's electric. But the problem is he weighs about 160 pounds when he's soaking wet. I worry about his durability. The history of 160-pound wide receivers taking the first round isn't great. I'm a little wary of him.
Yeah, he does have that speed, though. For a long time, we've been talking about a dynamic player. And look, there are guys that have held up, but you're right. That's an exception, not a rule. Usually the smaller players don't. Speaking of smaller players, not quite as small, Ladd McConkey's name keeps coming up. Look, he may be mocked as a second-rounder, but, boy, the guy's good. 2024, they met with him at the Senior Bowl. Listen, he won the Community Service Award, finalist for Academic Heisman. Oh, and he can play. Great route runner. Injuries have been a concern for him, but he is a guy that could be there, maybe even in the second round. They'd probably have to move up to get him. But there's still more, including a guy, you guys, that a lot of Bills fans really like.
Yeah, Troy Franklin is someone out of Oregon that the Bills fans have liked, as well as Joe Brady. He actually tried to recruit Troy Franklin coming out of high school. So there is that connection with Buffalo's offensive coordinator. He's got the big play potential. He can stretch the field. Another guy that is tall and fast. People are saying he might go later on in the first round, maybe a second round, but still a guy that obviously has quite a connection to this Bills team already.
Yeah, when I think of Troy Franklin, I think of big and fast. And if you want another wide receiver, maybe you want even a bigger one or a faster one, how about Keon Coleman? Look, he's an interesting prospect. It feels kind of boom or bust, wide receiver coming out of Florida State, but he has got massive jump ball ability. Deep threat guy. He has a basketball background where he played at Michigan State. You're just wondering, where is the production, Jenna?
Yeah, I totally get that. I do feel the boom or bust, but there's another guy that people have been talking about as well for Buffalo.
I'm coming around on Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. Look, he's in his 5th year, and he really hasn't produced much the previous years, but South Carolina didn't have great quarterbacks. We've been talking a lot today. He's kind of like a Kirkland brand Deebo Samuel or a DK Metcalf. Mike, nothing wrong with...
He's been working on this analogy all day.
Hey, I like Kirkland. They've got great stuff. It's not a knock. It's just to try and make the comparison. Some may use watered-down version. I use Kirkland brand. I like their stuff.
Yeah, Dan doing his bit for Costco. The golf balls are pretty good, by the way. So,
exactly.
Yeah, the Kirkland brand can work for you. Liz, you're going to be using a high draft pick for the guy, so we'll brand him a bit later. All right, we still have plenty more to talk about. When we come back, yes, there's a possibility, brace yourself, Bills fans, that they go defense tonight. We'll look at some of the players who could be on their board when we come back on Buffalo Plus Live. All right, welcome back here. I'm going to use my glasses to do this. Bullseye says proof if Diggs didn't see it his way, he wasn't a team player. A lot of people feel that way. Rick Rarick back with us saying hello to everybody, Jenna, Dan, and myself. Bills Watch saying Diggs was a top 5 wide receiver, first 7 games. Was it his fault Allen didn't throw the ball his way? That's a really interesting question because they seem to change things on the offense. But if Diggs was making plays, I think they would have gone to him. They were still trying to win football games. A lot of talk about Diggs. What I saw of Diggs was a guy who wanted to give it all for his team until he realized he wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. That's interesting. Listen, guys make moves for whatever reason, but you're playing with Josh Allen. Now, look, he's going to go play with a really good young quarterback in Houston, but he put a lot of time and effort into being with the Buffalo Bills, and then he moved on. Roy Collins, Worthy's play weight was around 173, so that's still a relatively small player. Robert's saying Worthy was the fastest guy in combine history. Wow, that is true. That guy has speed. Oh, and David's saying what? Wide receiver, no defense. He doesn't want defense. Well, guess what? In the next segment, we're going to be talking about defense because Bean has gone for defense. And by the way, Bean runs the draft. McDermott is around. Brandon Bean runs the draft. This is his place. He's gone for defense. Some have worked out better than others. So you know how the TV bit works. Quick little break. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Buffalo Plus NFL Draft Show. We're calling it Building the Roster because that's what they need to do. Jenna and Dan in Orchard Park. Guys, what happens if they stay at 28?
I mean, that's an excellent question. And considering a lot of people expect the top 10 picks to be all offense, that means there's going to be a lot of defensive guys that are highly rated still on the board. And Brandon Beane talked about what his thought process would be there.
You know, we're not going to, at 28, you know, if all our first-round receivers are gone and the next guy is well into the second round, but we have other positions, we're going to take the other position. Like, we're not you still got to take good football players.
Yeah, Mike, and I think we all talk about wanting a wide receiver for this Bills team, all this stuff, but at the same point, Brandon Beane has gone defense 2 out of the last 3 years. So, Mike, there is that as well.
Yeah, there is. And look, if they go defensive linemen again, and they've done it early with Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, Boogie Basham, A.J. Epinesa, there is a guy out of UCLA that could be on their radar. Leatu Latu, one big red flag on him. When he was at Washington, had a neck injury. He was done with football. They wouldn't allow him to play. Went to UCLA. They got him cleared, and he was spectacular last year. A little bit of a risk, big reward for a guy who can make some plays, and they still need pass rush no matter what they've done, guys.
Yeah, Mike, and another guy that talk about freak athletes. Look, whenever they compare a player, they're always comparing what their ceiling would be. So take everything you hear, especially tonight, with a grain of salt. But there's a guy out of Penn State, Chop Robinson, who is a freak. He's compared athletically to Micah Parsons. Didn't have the exact amount of production that Parsons had, but hey, we all know how good Parsons is with Dallas. So if you're wondering why he has the name Chop, well, I'll let him explain it.
My birth name is Damian Robinson. Everybody knows me as Chop. I was 14 pounds when I was a baby. My mom gave me the nickname Pork Chop. I got older, I started to slim down. I was like, people can't call me Pork Chop because I'm not big no more. So I just kept it Chop, and it's been that ever since. I'm one of 10. They used to call me Plump. They still do to this day. That's my household name, but nobody really knows that. Everybody knows Chop. The Chop celebration is after a big play, a sack, or a big tackle. You just basically act like you're chopping some wood with an axe.
Chop Robinson, chopped him down.
And I'm trying to use the chop move in the NFL. That's gonna be one of my signature moves because it's only right that I have to, especially with my name.
Yeah, it's gotta be one of the best names in the draft. And guys, Mike, Jenna, you guys both make fun of me. Big fan of pork chops. Big fan of pork chops.
Jenna,
Yeah,
I was just thinking.
Not for me.
Yeah, Jenna, I was just thinking about his poor mother. 14-pound baby.
That's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Pork Chop to Chop Robinson. Another pass rusher, though, that I think has caught a lot of people's attention is Chris Broswell out of Alabama. He's played all 4 years at Alabama. A lot of guys will transfer away if they're not getting the time that they want on the field. He's quick off the line. He's called violent. And, guys, he squats 705 pounds. So there's a lot of power there, I would say.
Are there that many weights in a weight room? 700 pounds for him? Good for him. All right, listen, now that we've talked wide receiver and pass rusher, what if they go in another direction tonight? We will give you some of the names of the players the Bills could pick in round 1 in a few hours when we come back on Buffalo Plus and our live draft special. All right, I knew I was going to get this. Sonny Lamont says, Aaron Maben flashbacks, no Penn State pass rushers. Believe me, I remember Aaron Maben. Yeah, but Micah Parsons is a Penn State guy, too, and a pass rusher. Todd says, sounds like Coleman in play for the first round for some team. He is a tremendous athlete, confident guy. Like, again, we always say this. We can look at it. We can look at the way people judge these players. It comes down to what Brandon Beane and the scouts think. They may have Coleman higher than Thomas. Like, we don't know. We'll find out tonight. The guys are all laughing back there because they're going to say we're not in the room. But we're not in the room. We don't know where they have it. Okay, here we go. Michael says Pretty please, can we get a shiny new toy, a wide receiver, then a safety, then D-line? Michael, this is my draft. I have Thomas, then I have them getting the safety from Miami, Kinchins, then I have them going D-line. You must have read my draft. I have O-line later. I have another wide receiver. Michael, you needed to look at my draft. It's on the it's on Twitter and it's on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. But anyhow, keep watching. Let's see. All draftees will need coaching. Yeah, to smooth out the rough spots. That's always the case. Jenna looks like Dan is cracking her up off camera. Yeah, Dan comes up with a lot. He's a lot, but we love him. So he's out there getting ready. And listen, this draft is coming up. Maybe Bean's working the phones right now. We're going to find out pretty soon. So we still got a little bit more. We'll go over these guys, and then we'll have our picks. So hang with us. We're going to take a quick little break. You'll see it go to black. Welcome back again to One Bills Live, our draft special tonight. The place is crazy in Detroit. Wait till you see it for the draft tonight. Fans excited. Jenna and Dan in Orchard Park, because that's where Brandon Bean is tonight. They'll talk to him later. Dan, Jenna, no matter what, when this team comes to training camp at Fisher in a few months, it's going to look a lot different.
Yeah, it's going to look a lot different, and they need to replace leaders, staple names and faces that you have become accustomed to since this McBean era has begun. They lost 5 captains from their team last year. They're going to need to replace them. 3 on offense, 2 on defense. But Sean McDermott says they're already working on that, guys.
You don't just hire leaders or bring in leaders. You're developing leaders the whole time, you know, kind of underneath the water. And it's not just developing the player, but developing the person. And because those leaders aren't always going to be here. And so they're going to graduate at some point, like they have in some cases. And you need people who are ready to step in and step up.
Yeah, I think a prime example is Terrell Bernard.
Yes.
He was a guy that kind of sat in the wings, was a special teamer his rookie year. Everybody kind of forgot about him, except for me. I knew this was going to happen, and yeah, I was going to take that shot. But Mike, you're always kind of trying to prepare people for when they're ready before they're called upon.
Yeah, and that's the case with a lot of players. Like, you never know how they come in. Jenna, you're going to tell us about a guy who is maybe the most intriguing player in this draft. He's different than a lot of other players. His position's not really set, but it looks like he can play.
Yeah, this guy, Cooper DeJean, out of Iowa. First and foremost, the Bills love Iowa guys. A.J. Epinesa, Micah Hyde, of course, being a Hawkeye. So this guy, he can be a corner. He can also be a safety. There is that versatility. And this dude is an athlete. Yeah. Ran a 4.43 at his pro day. He did have a top 30 visit with the Bills. So, again, that connection there. Instinctual, can be a returner as well, the potential there. So I see a lot of versatility and a lot of talent from him.
Yeah, he makes a lot of sense. He fits that McDermott mold, Iowa, scrappy, small town kid. He fits the mold. An interesting story is going to be when the first defensive player goes. Mike, you talked earlier about all the wide receivers, all the quarterbacks going to go. Some think it's Dallas Turner out of Alabama will be the first defensive player to go. It also could be a guy like Byron Murphy out of Texas, the Big 12 defensive lineman of the year. This guy is a freak defensively. This could be one of those plays that if things start to fall a little bit and Bean trades up, this may be the only player I would be okay with that wouldn't be a wide receiver. I think he's an absolute animal, and he would be a big help to this defensive line.
Yeah, he's been comped to Ed Oliver, which is kind of interesting. And there's another defensive tackle that they are looking at that came as one of their 30 prospects to visit, and that is they ended up with Deshaun. The defensive tackle, Jerzon Newton out of Illinois.
Jerzon Newton,
big, strong, fast. He is a player that the Bills like, bigger than Oliver, but a player that they could find in their roster. We don't know where he's going to fall to. A lot of people have him mocked late in the first. We'll see if he's still on the Bills list. All right, we are moments away from the start of the draft, and when we come back, we will tell you what we think the Bills will do tonight when we come right back on Buffalo Plus Live. So that's on me. I got on the wrong page here when I was talking about the defensive lineman. By the way, did I say One Bills Live? Did somebody hear that? I did say that. That's the Bills show. That's not Buffalo Plus Live. Look at that. I don't even know the name of my own show. Let's see what else we got here. Kendrick saying, you got this, Mike. I think that's when I was falling apart there a little bit. Wow, A.J. Brown just got 3 years, $96 million, $84 million guaranteed. Gee, I thought they were going to trade him. I'm kidding. Is this on TV in Rochester, Kevin? Yes, Channel 13. Miller loves OBJ, so why not? I'd take OBJ as a free agent. I'd take him right now. Cooper DeJean's in play in the first. They need cornerbacks to deal with Miami. I think the issue with him, great athlete, all those things. I think some teams aren't sure where he'd play. But if he's that good of a player, I think you get him on your roster. It's just usually when teams are taking a guy in the first round, they know exactly how they're going to use him. And I don't know if they have that thought. By the way, Dan and I have a bet on Cooper DeJean. I say they don't pick him. If they do pick him, I owe him a case of beer. If they don't, he owes me a six-pack. I thought that was a fair bet. I know he's going to be buying it at Costco, as we know. He'll buy me Kirkland brand beer, I think is what it'll be. All right, we're going to take another quick break, then we'll come back with our picks. And remember, we're going to have all our post-draft coverage each day, tonight, tomorrow, and again on Sunday on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. We'll be right back. All right, in a few minutes, Roger Goodell will go to the podium. The fans in Detroit will boo, and the draft will begin. Now, we've been previewing this weekend for months. Now it's time to tell you what we actually think will happen. Let's go back to Orchard Park. Dan and Jenna, what do you got for me?
Say, Dan, go off, King.
Yeah, I've gone a full circle on this. I thought the Bills were trading up for sure early on, maybe last month. Then last week, I think I was on the podcast, I said, I think they stay put at 28. I now think there are more people that want to sell in the top 10, and the Bills can go up. Do it, Brandon. Why not? Go up and get Rome Odunze out of Washington. Get into the trade with Atlanta at 8. Go get your #1 wide receiver for the next 5 years.
Love it. He is a sure thing, and whatever team gets him will be very lucky. I hope as well it's the Bills, but my prediction is it's not Odunze. My prediction is it's going to be A.D. Mitchell out of Texas. He's a guy, I said it earlier, he's tall and he's fast. He's a jump
Bills
ball.
could use it.
He's a jump ball winner. He is, again, a freak athlete. The Bills need all of those things and more at wide receiver, but A.D. Mitchell makes sense in Buffalo. And, Mike, that is my prediction.
All right, so going up big, staying at 28. I have them making a move to 22, and I have them getting Brian Thomas Jr. I had them trading up with the Eagles. They'll trade up with someone if they need to get him. Could be later, could be to Dallas at 24, even up as high as 16 to Seattle. I know this guy's had a shoulder issue. It's not a major one. He'll be ready to play. It's nothing like that. It's just something to keep an eye on if they make that pick tonight. So that's going to do it for all of us. We are all in agreement at wide receiver. It would be wild if they went up into the top 10. Dan's going to love every second of it. We don't know if that will happen, but we got you covered all the time on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. So that's going to do it for all of us tonight. We're so happy you were with us, both on Channel 13 and also on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel. For Dan and Jenna, who are in Orchard Park getting ready to eat and watch the draft, that's what makes Jenna happy. I'm Mike Catalana.
You know us so well.
Yes. As we leave you tonight, we get a little clip and a little bit. If you don't know a lot about the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel, check it out and enjoy the draft tonight. The Buffalo Plus YouTube channel remains your year-round source for news and insights on the Bills.
Weekly podcasts and unique content make the experience unlike anything you find on other platforms.
Join us to become part of the Buffalo Plus community. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube today.
Brought to you by Connors and Ferris.